Now, the other session that I wanted to talk about is Vatican II. Vatican II began in January of 1959. Okay, I was a seminarian, um, beginning the. No, it was just in my second year of the seminary. Uh, the 1959 was where Pope John the 23rd, announced the council, and took him 3 years to prepare for it. So that in 1962 was when the sessions began. And councils are very rare. They don't happen on a regular basis. The last council that we had was Vatican I. That was in 1870. So this one was in 1962, 65, in that area as such. So um, Vatican II was where the church came together, and Pope John the 23rd was the one who convened it, and to update the church, to bring the church into modern times, okay, and also to bring about a sense of conversion, a sense of change. And like anything, a lot of people had hard times with change. And I know when I was growing up, we were very excited about it, as I was in my early 20s in theology, and it was just so exciting. Some of our theologians would go over to Rome, and then they would come back to tell us what was going on. And it was just so exciting. The changes that took place are still something that we are dealing with today. Okay, it's a change of identity. Um, the liturgy changed. Before the mass was set against the wall, the priest faced the wall, and that was part of the way the church was for many, many hundreds of years. Um, but in the early church, they had the altar facing the people, and the vernacular was what they spoke. Okay, now they kept their vernacular, but the vernacular changed into it was Latin because this was the language of the Roman Empire, essentially. So the changes are not something um, new to the church; they're new to us, but not to the church. We went back to the altar facing the people, the priest faced the people, and he spoke in English and such. Um, and that was a great change. We take it for granted now. But that was a real positive thing. Now, along with the language was the change in scriptures. What they did was they formed what is called the lectionary, and this was to be done over a 3-year process. Session A, B, and C. So over a 3-year period, the people of God were exposed to the scriptures, almost entirely to the scriptures. And even during the week, they had a lectionary specifically for the weekday masses too. So that was a very positive thing. Um, the other changes, of course, were the involvement of the laity. The laity got very much involved in different types of ministries, that you were no longer um, spectators, but rather now you were called to be participators, to get involved and to recognize that because you're baptized, all of us are involved with ministry. Okay, my ministry is as a priest, yours is as laity. Your marriage is a ministry. Whether or not you're married or single, we all have different ministries that we have to deal with as such. And that's something that lots of times people are not aware of. Vatican II also brought back the um, permanent deacon. The deacon was a ministry in the early church, but it rather died out. Okay, don't forget, over the whole 2,000 years of liturgy, the liturgy went through all sorts of changes, from home churches to eventually having big churches with the clergy really running a lot of different things, and that was um, up until modern times. Okay, um, the Council of Trent was a council against the Reformation to clarify doctrines as such, and to um, try to respond to the reactions of the Protestants as such. Now, another aspect of Vatican II, which was very interesting, is ecumenism, where we are encouraged to have relationships with non-Catholics, non-Catholic ministers, rabbis, and so forth, and even Muslims and so forth, to maintain a relationship with them, to share who we are with them. And of course, with other Christians, we share our identity as Catholic, And this is something that the Church has been involved in since the beginning of Vatican Council II, which took place over 50 years ago. So we have good relationships with the Lutherans, the Orthodox, the Episcopalians, Methodists. Most of the mainline Protestant churches, we have a continual dialogue where we would meet maybe two times a year, say, something like that, and talk about different topics to try to understand each other better. Because many times it's the terminology that we used that caused the problems, misunderstandings, and so forth. So ecumenism is one of the fruits of Vatican Council II. Collegiality, where we would make decisions as a group, discussing the bishops would discuss things with the Pope and so forth. The laity were involved with this too, with the parish councils, the financial councils, that they would work together in promoting the mission of the church, that they were an active participants, no longer spectators, but rather called to be directly involved in the parish, in the ministries of the church as such. So the church has gone through lots of different changes. One of the changes that was very interesting that I've been involved with since the mid-80s was called the Rcia, Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. This was bringing people into the church and explaining to them what we are as Catholics. And so you had a whole year of different classes every week, and so that at Easter time, people would be brought into the church. They would be baptized, they would be confirmed, and then they would make their first Holy Communion as such. Now, RCIA was not something new to the church. The early church, very early church, had like an RCIA, they called it the catechumenate. And this was bringing people into the church, but it was a much longer period. It lasted about 3 years. And don't forget, the church was being persecuted, so they had to be very, very careful about who they were bringing into the church. Because if they brought the wrong person in, a spy, and who would report these Christians to the Roman authorities, and these Christians would be put to death as such. So they had to be very, very careful about who they were bringing into the church. It's all very secretive. It's done in the catacombs, and it took 3 years before it was they were able to be brought into the church. Now with Vatican II, they didn't make it 3 years; they made it 1 year. Usually in the fall and ending after Easter as such. So RCIA is a great tool to educate people about what it is to be Catholic. I highly encourage all Catholics to go through the RCIA. What I've given to you is just 5 or 6 sessions. They have so much more to give to you, so much more to read and understand about your faith. So I can't stress it enough. Every parish in the church should have an RCIA, and which is very good because it brings people into the church. And also, if the laity are encouraged to go through this is a way to update your faith. People who go through the RCIA, I believe, have a much deeper understanding of the fullness of the faith than your cradle Catholic, who's baptized and gone through CCD, but when they finish CCD in the 8th grade, they feel that there's nothing else to learn. And there's a great deal to learn. We're always to be learning. We can never stop learning. If we stop learning, then I think we start dying. That's when we become uh, petrified, yeah, where we fail to grow in our faith as such. Um, but other changes in Vatican II. Um, oh, they had lots of different documents came about. I think they had 16 different documents. But you will have to read that on your own, okay? I'm not going to read it to you, okay? But these documents cover all different aspects of religious, of the Christian faith and so forth. And about the liturgy, about the church, about scriptures, traditions, and so forth. Now, let's see what else is there to say. This being our final session, one of the handouts is very important. It's called an evaluation. Okay, we'd like you to fill out the evaluation and send it back into the parish. Okay, so that we can make improvements because everything could be improved. Okay, I would like to maintain contact with you, and you can contact me through my email, which is rbrazaskas, so that's R and BRAZASKAS119 at comcast.net. So that if you want any questions or things like that, we can talk like that, or you can give me a call once I get in contact with you, and then we can talk by telephone as such. This is one of the great um, things of modern day technology. Um, 50 or 100 years ago, we had nothing like this at all. I mean, 50 years ago, they had television, but it was just beginning. They had telephones, but they didn't have the internet. They didn't have the tools that we have, the cell phones. Okay, your cell phone is a computer unto itself. Um, so we're using these technologies to spread the news of welcome home Catholics for those of you who have been away, and uh, uh, helping. We want to help you as much as we possibly can with your situation. Encourage you to come back to Mass, to get to the sacraments, confession, and Mass on a regular basis. Don't forget, this is all about a love relationship. The scriptures are very much a part of a love relationship. These were like love notes that God has given to us, both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And it got more personal as time went on. It became very personal when Christ was sent to give us the gospel, to suffer and die for us, and then to rise from the dead. So the church is part of this love relationship, and like any love relationship, you have to work at it. It doesn't grow by itself. Um, but there is one thing that you don't have to work at that will grow automatically, and that is you're going to get old. All you have to do is wait, and one day it will dawn on you that you've gone old. Okay, that's just natural. But the things that we have to work at are not with our physical bodies, but primarily with our spirit, with our the scriptures and our relationship with God through prayer, and living the gospel and becoming what God wants us to become as His holy people. So please do all the readings that you have, um, and please get back that evaluation so that we can continue to grow in this ministry as such. Thank you very much. God bless you, and welcome home.